Thanks. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members.
Sorry, General. Reverend Meshwe has a question. Sorry, General Masinula.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning. As a point of order, I need clarity on the issue you raised about the promotion of an individual who has a cloud hanging over him. I thought you were going to ask for the response or even the opinion of members of this committee, because we cannot understand. I do not understand as an individual how such a thing can happen. So my question to you, sir, is when is that going to be addressed? After the presentation or before the presentation? Because I think it would be best for that to be attended to before.
Thank you, Reverend. No, we are going to discuss it today. I want to make sure that we stay focused on the extortion crisis. We really need to get down to it. We have actually, in my opinion, lost a lot of time regarding the addressing the extortion challenge. So we will discuss it today after the presentation. And on Friday, there will be more than enough time to further engage. But all the members will be able to discuss it today after the presentation. The presentation is not a long presentation. It shouldn't take longer than 30 to 40 minutes. And after that, we've got adequate time to really delve deep into the discussion. In fact, if the honourable members prefer, we can start right after the presentation with the discussion regarding General Mboto's promotion and appointment. We'll come to that. Yes, DM.
Thank you very much, Chair. But as you also said, you have sent a letter to the NETCOM and also to the Minister. I've not seen it myself, but I think we'll be able to bring the report in writing so that we give you the facts and not just try to get around. 100%. And the committee can have written a reply from us, given the letter that you have sent to the Minister.
Thank you
very much.
I would like to further request, General Abia, that we have that discussion on Friday at Philippi. We did give an extended amount of time in the letter, but due to the fact that it's already public, we are now receiving a lot of questions, and this appointment is putting us in a very uncomfortable position regarding this appointment and promotion. And I think it's important that the public get urgent feedback on it. We've had too many questions regarding these kinds of appointments in the South African Police Service, and we can no longer just look on as they happen and not question why it is approved and what the grounds are. And I agree with Honourable Meshwe. I also agree with you, DM, that we would like all the facts on paper. But Honourable Meshwe is 100% correct that I think the committee members need an opportunity to state their opinions. I think it's fair to say that if the police do not want to reply today, we'll give them a fair opportunity to reply then on this coming Friday at the Philippi oversight visit. But it's crucial to me that the committee members, each one that feels that they want to say something about this, should be able to raise their questions. And if there are questions that can't be answered today, then that should be added to the briefing on this coming Friday at Philippi. Okay. Honourable Letlape.
No, thanks, Chair, and good morning to colleagues. I don't think it's right to say if the police feel they don't want to answer. This issue that the Honourable Meshwe has just raised, it's important because it's now in social media. And if the media was to ask any of the members of the Portfolio Committee about this promotion, would have to answer. And it's only right that the National Commissioner is here. Even though we will receive a brief report, we can just have a summary report of what happened and why has there been such an appointment of a person who has a cloud on himself. I think it's only right that we get that response here now before we get a brief response. We can't turn it back and say, because there's rightful people here to respond to that question. So I think, Chair, please just give them an opportunity to respond to us and give us an idea of why has that promotion happened, and we can get a brief report later on. Thanks.
Fair point, Honourable Hlape. Honourable Adams, you looked like you wanted to say something. Please go for it.
Morning, Chair. Morning, colleagues. Morning, SAPS. I'm covered by my colleague for the most part. But just a point of concern, because when that story hit the media this morning, I was more than concerned, because I've got a list of very, very senior people in SAPS that appear to be implicated in kidnapping, cash in transit heights, drug dealing, and various other things. And my concern right now is that as we sit here, these people know what we're discussing. And the chair can probably confirm that when you connect the dots of the information that I have, it appears to be very, very credible. So my concern right here, Chair, is that whatever we discuss here will in all probability go to the wrong people by the end of the day. And that is a serious, serious issue because the credibility of SAPS is at stake here. What's left of the credibility of SAPS. So I'm seriously concerned about that issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Adams. Colleagues, I would like us to go over to the presentation. We will have more than enough time to discuss. Honourable Letlape, I think the committee agrees with your point, so we will give a chance for reply. The detailed response then on Friday at Philippi, if you're comfortable with that. But let's kick off with extortion and the business of the day, and then we will take the rest of the discussion further. General Masemola, sorry for the interruption. Please feel free to continue.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable members, the Deputy Minister and everybody. Thanks. Honourable Chair, we do have a strategy in terms of how we deal with corruption. And we will, of course, as the DMF said, we will present what we have prepared for this committee, but of course take into account the challenge, Honourable Chair, that what we present here will be presented to everybody, including those that we want. So hence the request of the DM, if it is acceded to in the future, we can be able to say a lot. But for now, Honourable Chair, we will then go through with the presentation. I don't have to go through with the successes because everything is in the presentation. We acknowledge it has become a challenge of late that is within societies in various provinces. And through our intelligence-led operation, we do get to some of these criminals, but however, the challenge of extortion, which greatly affect a lot of people, is that is underreported, and especially in construction, most of the stakeholders, they are aware that they should make provision for 30% local sourcing. But however, that is a problem because there's nobody that really look after or adjudicate as to is a specific contractor that comes into a place do as the law requires. If your tender is over 30 million, you must apportion 30% for the local, and the interpretation of the legislation in regard to that. So that on its own is a challenge. And most constructors, they go along, and when the criminals, I would say criminals, start increasing the money, then that's when they make a U-turn and they report, only then they report to the police. And when during investigation, you find that, but looks like you have been paying these people, and that's when they will deny, or they will give you half facts in terms of the statement. So those are some of the challenges that we have. And but we, in other areas like your small business, like your spaza shop, whatever, we do have some of our operations that are going in there, which I'm sure they'll reap fruits with time, without detailing how we are getting into that area. But in general, that is one of the problems. And also the fact that people are required, once the tender is out, that it be gazetted, everybody see that so and so got turned out so much, that on its own, it makes the specific contractor vulnerable to these people, because they will then come out and say as to how much they're going to get to the specific contractor. But we have seen quite a lot of inroads that we are currently doing in terms of arrests, in terms of infiltration. We have established toll-free lines in 2 provinces. We are in the process of establishing a national toll-free line. The current 2 are quite yielding some results. We do have some results where people reported certain cases which we are dealing with now. But let's get to the presentation. Lieutenant General Sintumule will take us through the presentation. Just to introduce everybody, Honorable Chair is Lieutenant General Sintumule, Head of Detectives. Next is Lieutenant General Msekidi, the Deputy National Commissioner for Policing or Uniform Policing. Next is Lieutenant General Sibiya, responsible for crime detection. And next is National Head of the DPCI, Lieutenant General Dr. Libia. Next is the Provincial Commissioner of Western Cape, Lieutenant General Ategile. And the Provincial Commissioner of Eastern Cape, Lieutenant General Mene. And behind is our communication head, Major General Mbata, and the support staff. Thank you very much. Lieutenant General Sintumule can proceed.
Thank you very much, General. Greetings to the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, the honorable members, our Deputy Minister, National Commissioner, our DNCs, the PCs in attendance, and to all the colleagues. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I will take you through the presentation and it will cover the following. We'll be looking at the background of this particular threat, as well as look at legislative framework that's enabling for us to be able to investigate and charge suspects. And also we will be interrogating typologies, that means in how it manifests and the modus operandi. Also looking at the hotspots within provinces, our operational approach in terms of how do we counter these extortions, and also reflect on significant arrests, notable achievements and current interventions that we have nationally. And also as a team, what our key milestones are for the month of September. We have milestones as a team on a monthly basis, and also covering what the current challenges are that also leads to probably no reporting, as well as the mitigating measures.
Sorry, General, just give a moment. Honorable Measure.
Where's the General to put the mic closer to him, please?
Thank you, Chairperson, and apologies. I'm not sure if that's better. Thank you, Honorable Chair. As stated, the purpose of today is just to give an update to the Portfolio Committee in terms of the status of our strategies, interventions, and plan that we have put in place to curb extortions in the country. In the introduction, I want to reflect that the construction industry in our country, which is a significant driver of economic growth, development, and employment, has seen a rise in criminal elements known as the construction mafia and extortionists. In this, we acknowledge that it's not a new phenomenon. However, it is continuously migrating as well as increasing. The construction sites, which range from small businesses to large-scale projects, serve as prime targets for these organized crime syndicates, and their tactics include extortions using violence and intimidation and disruption to advance their objective. Furthermore, South Africa is increasingly experiencing another way of criminality, or new way of criminality, that now still within your extortion, where we see households also being extorted. We see the vulnerable groups being extorted, the taxi industry, as well as your tech shop or your spaza shop owners. In our assessment, we have also seen that these units or these groups have organized themselves into what is now referred to as local business forums. And these have invaded various sector sites across the country, demanding money or a stake in development projects, and also demand protection fees from small businesses, schools, transportation schemes, and other phenomena. This negatively or adversely impacts on the economy and infrastructure development, including your investor confidence, and which is so much required in the country because of our dwindling economy. And these disruptions further undermine service delivery, economic development through delays and threats of violence to projects. And I think underlying the Constitution, it further threatens the livelihood of our society at large. Chairperson, numerous calls have been made to government by business, government meaning through Parliament, through the President, the ministers and portfolio committees, where business is requesting assistance from government to aggressively address this threat because of the adverse implication or impact on the economy. In his State of the Nation address delivered on 13 February 2020, the State President, His Excellency Mr. C.M. Ramaphosa, announced that he has prioritized government's response to the growing problem of criminal groups that extort money from constructions, businesses and other businesses. And this has led to the establishment of specialized police teams which were directed to tackle this threat within police, but also the combating of extortion and violence at economic sites, especially the construction sector, it being now one of the key deliverables within the NDP 2030. In this regard, the JCPS cluster has been tasked as an implementing agency in this regard. Further, Chairperson, in the State of the Nation address of this financial year, the previous financial year in February 2024, the State President reiterated the damage caused by extortion on our economy and further said that there should be stringent measures that must be put in place by law enforcement to tackle this scourge. To be able to do this successfully, Chairperson, we need enabling legislation. So as we analyze, you would find that it's difficult actually to even formulate charges around the issues of extortions and other issues that are related to extortions. And therefore, the following legislation plays a critical role to assist law enforcement in tackling the scourge. The Constitution, the Criminal Procedure Act, the Criminal Matters Amendment Act, your POCA, your PRECA, your FICA, SAPS Act, and other related legislation. Moving further to analysis of this type of crime that we see in our country. In our analysis, it was revealed that extortion manifests in different typologies, and these are seen in the construction sector, in the transport sector, the municipalities, the security sector, the mining sector, the business sector, and vulnerable communities. In the construction sector, you will see that the construction mafias disrupt constructions across the country where they present themselves as sorry, Chair, my eyes are failing me, so I can't see properly. No, I can't see with glasses. Maybe let me rather read. Sorry, Chair, apologies for that.
That's okay, take your time.
Old age shows in numerous signs. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, these construction mafias that disrupt construction sites across the country, they present themselves as emerging business forums. And these groups invade construction sites, they demand money or a stake in development projects. In the mining sector, also, we have seen in mining companies like Anglo-American, your Glencore, your Sibanye, Stillwaters, etc. These are targets are targets for groups that are demanding as much as 30% of their lucrative procurement contracts, often with little to offer by way of skills and services. And non-compliance to this particular requirement brings threat to executives and disruptions in mining operations. In the transport sector, a bucket system is applied by chairpersons of associations where people have to pay money into buckets. Failure to do so, then they are either excluded or harmed. Taxi drivers and owners of your scholar transport also are a target where these criminals demand a share per load that they transport on a daily basis. In the security sector, chairperson, the security companies involved in government and private businesses are also targets where these groups, again, they demand 30% or otherwise threats are made to security guards and also those who are managing the business sites. Further, in the business sector, the criminals are demanding protection money from foreign-owned businesses, particularly in the Western Cape. This is where this sketch is prevalent. Your spaza shop, again, it goes to petrol stations we have seen in the Eastern Cape, and even backyard dwellers. Within the municipalities, it has also been recorded where these groupings storms into boardrooms whilst the BEC is sitting for tender meetings, and they demand tenders and also threaten supply chain procurement officers. Vulnerable communities, again, this was seen mostly in the Eastern Cape and also in Limpopo, where blind and disabled people are also extorted. The beneficiaries of the road accident funds and pension payouts are identified, and also as they receive their lump sum payment, they are also extorted a share or a percentage of what they receive. Thank you, Chair. The modus operandi that we have documented, you will see it relates to the invasion of construction sites by heavily armed individuals who threaten companies and also families. And also there is a huge demand for community employment as well as the 30% share, as also NATCOM has said earlier. There's also forceful demand for tenders as well as protection fees, intimidation, as well as threatening of contractors to cease their duties at construction sites pending the fulfillment of the criminal's demands, threaten business people to pay funds for security so that their businesses are not disrupted or destroyed. There's also been cases of murder and attempted murder, assault and other related crimes, the barricading of roads, forced shutdowns of construction sites at the behest of criminals until their demands are alluded to. Theft and robbery of equipment, for example, your construction machinery, until again the company yields to the requirements by the syndicates. We also have witnessed destruction of water infrastructure, where people will deliberately make sure that they will go and force municipalities to pay them for fixing those because they need the money for their activities. Thank you, Chair. The next slides reflects on the identified hotspot districts in the country, and these are manifesting in 4 provinces, which is Gauteng, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. In Gauteng, these are mostly in your Johannesburg, Tshwane, and Ekurhuleni districts. In the Western Cape, we have seen these more in the city of Cape Town, Cape Winelands, and Overberg. In Eastern Cape, Buffalo City, OR Tambo, and Nelson Mandela. In KwaZulu-Natal, these are prevalent in eThekwini, Umgungundlovu, and Ugu district. We also have chairperson profiles these business forums as well as the syndicates, but as the DM and the NATCOM said, some of the data is not freely shared in this platform, and therefore it is available should a need arise that it be shared. In KwaZulu-Natal, we have identified 18 business forums. In the Western Cape, we have identified 10 syndicates. In Eastern Cape, we've identified 5 business forums. In Gauteng, there's 3 that includes Boko Haram. In Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and Northwest, they have 1 each. Now, coming to our approach in terms of dealing with these phenomena. Our operational philosophy and approach is leaning on the national policing strategy, where we apply 2 focus areas, the geographical approach and the organized crime approach. The geographical approach is what is known as the conventional approach, where we use our proactive competencies that includes intelligence, as well as your combat and visible policing competencies. And should that not neutralize or stabilize the threat, we then go unconventional through your organized crime approach. And this is where the crime intelligence, the detectives, as well as DPCI are working strongly to identify targets and address them through projects. Thank you, Chair. In terms of the governance framework, the NATCOM did refer to this being a country problem, and therefore the JCPS cluster being the implementing agency. In this regard, within the NCCF, we have the priority committee. Within the NAT joints, we've got a priority committee that's focusing on extortions. It's called the NCCG, which is the National Core Command Group on Extortions, and the same structure is rolled out to provinces. It is chaired in provinces by provincial heads, organized crime, and business also participates in this particular structures. These meet on a monthly basis or as per requirement. For example, with the Eastern Cape, where there was now an influx of these business forums and problems. So these meetings take place on a bi-weekly basis with the intent to stabilize and also neutralize the threat in that particular area. Thank you, Chair. The purpose of these committees is to direct collaborative experiences, skills, and resources housed within law enforcement agencies and private sector to ensure collaboration with the entities in the private sector within the context of relevant legislative, policy, strategic, and operational framework applicable to both law enforcement and our stakeholders. And in order to address the growing problem of extortionists, that this group then meet on a monthly basis for us to be able to measure any successes or challenges that are faced by both law enforcement and business at large. In these committees, we have the following stakeholders, both at national as well as in provinces. The SAPS is taking the lead with the following competences: the detectives, visible policing and ORS, crime intelligence, and supply chain management, the DPCI, and then we also have the NPA sitting within the committees, and they are the co-chairs of the committees. We also have DPW, we've got the AFU within your NPA, because there is no point in us investigating people without attaching or actually seizing their proceeds of crime. The SIU also is sitting based on any presidential proclamations, then they will also filter into our investigation stream. SARS, the SABRIC, as FIC, SANRAL, the engineer councillors in different formations, Minerals Council, BAXA, your CGC, Consumer Goods Council, etc. And these priority committees have adopted a work streams approach, and the following work streams at play. We've got information management work stream, case management work stream. We've got training and development work stream, stakeholder engagement and awareness, the POCA work stream, and legislative review. I also must emphasize that the work stream philosophy is leaning towards the 5-pillar approach as exercised by the police. Thank you, Chair. In the next slide, we have the functions of each work stream. Work stream number 1, which is information sharing, their critical deliverables relate to providing crime intelligence and technical support for effective detection of crime, but also to gather, correlate, evaluate, coordinate, and use intelligence in support of detection of crime, as well as coordinating of intelligence. And also we have got our proactive competencies, which is our crime prevention and combat competencies, as we have seen those playing a big role in trying to neutralize the threat in the Eastern Cape. Work stream number 2 on case management. This work stream has a database of all our case management, but also it is instrumental in the successful arrest and prosecution of criminal groupings identified in extortion and other related crimes, but also ensure effective investigation of all extortion crimes and ensure that the proceeds of crime are forfeited to the state accordingly. Work stream number 3, training and development. As members are investigating on the ground, it has also become evident that there is also skills shortages, particularly on understanding the typology of these crimes around extortion. And therefore, with business, it was agreed that there will be cross-pollination of skills and training, skills transfer, as well as empowerment. Stakeholder engagement and awareness, again, it's about sensitizing our communities about the criminality of extortions, but also mobilizing them as well as pushing advocacy through communication. On the POCA, this is where now we are pushing for POCA prosecutions that will relate to money laundering and racketeering. Our work stream number 6, which is a legislative review. This is a stream that is going to look or interrogate current legislation and identify gaps that render this threat pervasive in South Africa. We also did an analysis of all the cases that we have, and we went back as far as 2019. From 01 April 2019 to March this year, the 31st, we recorded a total of 6,056 extortion cases. And the breakdown of these cases is as follows. For Gauteng, a number 2,284 cases were recorded, where 828 arrests were made with only 45 convictions. I will talk to the rationale behind the low convictions, Chairperson, at a later stage. The Western Cape Province recorded 1,476 cases, 683 arrests, as well as 36 convictions. KwaZulu-Natal follows with 816 cases, 237 arrests, and 35 convictions. Eastern Cape is the next big province with 438, 108 arrests, and 13 convictions. Thank you, Chair. I'll move to the next slide. We also thought it proper that we reflect on latest arrests in this particular sketch and convictions. In Northwest, Chairperson, on the 18th of July, in an intelligence-led operation, 2 African males who demanded work as protectors from a company called Liquid Telecoms that was installing fiber on the N12 from Klerksdorp to Wolmaranstad and from Klerksdorp to Potchefstroom were arrested, and this case is currently in court. On the 9th of July, again in Northwest, a contract manager who was awarded a tender to erect a taxi rank in Joburton was also approached by 6 African males who demanded work from him. And this contractor approached the police, and as a result, 4 males were arrested and 2 vehicles were seized. All 4 males were charged with extortion, disturbance at a construction site, and intimidation. And the case is currently on the court road. And all arrested suspects were remanded in custody. In KwaZulu-Natal, in August, a group of people halted a building of a bridge in Siweni area in Umsunduzi. 5 suspects were arrested and all accused are currently in custody. And as we speak, the bail hearing is underway at Camperdown Magistrate Court. In KwaZulu-Natal, again, in April this year, 5 suspects were arrested in Durban Central for demanding to be contracted to King's Furniture to deliver furniture to their customers. All of them were arrested through 252 operation, and all of them were denied bail and are in custody. In May, 8 suspects were arrested in Inanda after they stopped the fixing of the community infrastructure in Inanda, Newtown, and they demanded a stake to be given to them in the form of a tender. All suspects were arrested, but they are currently released on bail. In Mpumalanga, we have a group called Kwaka 20, and this group also approached a contractor demanding work. The complainants in the matter were approached. However, they were not willing to open a case because they spoke that they feared for their lives. Through intelligence, we were able to profile these suspects, and as a result, 3 males were arrested. And this happened after there was a shootout with the police where one of the suspects was fatally wounded. During the operation, 2 firearms were seized and 1 vehicle. And last week, Thursday, the case was in court. It was remanded for this Friday, 20 September. In Limpopo, the Jerusalem gang was identified, and they are involved in numerous crimes that include extortion, murder, and other serious and violent crimes. From February to May to date, 8 suspects were arrested for murder and other related crimes, and all of them are still in custody. Their cases were remanded, and they will appear between September and October 2024. In the Eastern Cape, we recorded success of 1 specific case that was recorded in February 2024, where a complainant received a call that one of his truck drivers was pulled over by a taxi operator, where a sum of 10,000 was demanded in order for the vehicle to be released. The suspect was arrested. The case was finalized in court this month on the 11th, where a sentence of 7 years direct imprisonment was sanctioned, and the accused was declared unfit to possess a firearm. Further, in the Eastern Cape, operating from Operation Selapa, 13 suspects were arrested in 7 extortion cases, and all of those are currently in custody. The operations are ongoing. In Gauteng, based on our intelligence, again, we partially neutralized Boko Haram group, where 3 suspects were arrested in January this year. All the 3 are currently in custody, and their case will appear on the 30th of September. However, the outstanding investigations are continuing on the targets that have been identified. Moving to notable achievements, Chair, the NCCG and the PCCG, which are priority committees on extortions, are fully active, as well as having a full support of the business sector and all other stakeholders. These meetings at national take place at the BAXA head office, and in provinces also it will be either within our provincial offices, or the business sector will also opt to host those. We also have a strategy on extortions that the NATCOM spoke about, and also we regulate our operations through approved terms of reference. We also have been able to complete a national database of all construction projects, where we are able to proactively monitor those projects and be able to see if there are any disturbances that might require our reactive approach. Also, Chairperson, we have 2 hotlines that have been established. The first one being the Western Cape that took place last year in September, as well as the Eastern Cape. In terms of the effectiveness of the hotlines, the Eastern Cape has received a total of 1,525 calls, 37 cases were reported, and 11 inquiries have been registered since inception. In the Western Cape, 71 positive calls were received, In the absence of a national extortion hotline, 4 of those belong to other provinces. So the province is now directing all of those to the relevant provinces. However, Chair, also it gives us a priority to say to this House that by this Friday, we will go live with the national hotline. We are working very closely with Vodacom through our TMS division. Thank you, Chair. In terms of neutralizing hotspot areas, we currently have interventions in Eastern Cape under Operation Silapa, where we have deployed a multidisciplinary team based on the 5-pillar approach in both Nelson Mandela and OR Tambo. A total number of 104 members have been deployed, including detectives and crime intelligence. The key objective of the intervention is to stabilize the threats with arrest. And to date, we have a list of successes that includes property seizures as well as arrests. As said earlier, Chairperson, that the NCCG and the PCCG operates on milestones in terms of what is it that we want to see happening for the month in neutralizing extortions. We also have realized that we are basically dealing with your low-level targets, for example, level 1 and level 2. So the intention is now to move higher the pyramid of the organized crime syndicates, your level 3, level 4, level 5, and that's where we are bringing in the DPCI to assist with your methodology. And therefore, for this month, all provinces were tasked to have takedown operations targeting your level 3 to level 5 targets, which are actually your kingpins in the syndicate. And also, crime intelligence is currently conducting an assessment of the nature and extent of the threat. We feel that we need to go to war with what we know, and also to know what is the capacity of what we are facing in terms of our criminals. The issue of protecting whistleblowers came strong as well, where people are not willing to either report cases or even report criminality for fear of their lives and also that affecting their families. The issue of the review of legislation that also needs to be looked at by our workstream number 6. The hotlines should be up and running at national and all provinces. And also we did receive an awareness plan that is including both business and government, and that will be operationalized again from the 20th of September. I did talk about targeting level 3 to level 5 arrests on progressive investigations, and also there is an intention to establish an extortion joint operational center that will be linked to our NOCC and our provincial operational centers. In terms of challenges, Chairperson, the communities are reporting these cases because of fear of victimization. That is one issue that comes out strong at all times. And these also includes the witness reluctance to provide statements or testify as they fear for their lives. There are also certain key stakeholders who opt not to take part in our teams, and that also adversely affects our operations because some of them would then go ahead and pay the money, but as they pay more money, then they begin to come forward and report those cases. We have seen in Northwest where witnesses lose interest when the work is finalized. So if, for example, they were given a contract, once that is done, Chairperson, that person no longer wants to cooperate and they feel that they've been paid their money and therefore they want to move on with their lives. And again, there are complainants who feel that it is safer for them to obtain protection orders instead of them opening criminal cases because then they get approached by the same criminals that they are opening cases against. Foreign nationals, when approached by IOs for information, they refuse to cooperate. And also, we have found that there's collusion of people who are given contracts with criminals, and they only report the matter to the police when the extortionists now demand more money from them. We have a case in point in Gauteng where one a contractor started by paying 100,000, it went to 200,000, and as the amount escalated, then he came forward to the police. We are currently investigating the matter. The other issue that becomes a challenge, Chairperson, is the legislation that requires that a successful tender be gazetted, which means that the amount, the place, the contractor will be published. So this is also part of the scanning by criminals who then go and approach the winning bidder and demand their 30% share or whatever that they would want from the contractor. In terms of mitigating measures, we are aiming at maximizing our utilization of the POCA Act. We did talk about your money laundering as well as racketeering charges to identified suspects together with the NPA. We're working on that. Also, maximize the use of the PRECA Act to investigate corruption internally as well as within the government space as well. Again, we are opting to have a team that is multidisciplinary in nature, where DPC, ICI, detectives, and Vispol work together to address any issues relating to the crimes around your SMMEs. And also, we are seeking that government should look at vetting as well as conducting integrity testing for officials who are responsible for awarding tenders within your small business sector. And also the issue of lack of work in communities, but also non-payment of contractors render these projects vulnerable. And as work streams, ours is to make sure that we implement our plans and ensure that there is a monitoring tool within the streams as well for us to be able to see if you are successful in neutralizing these threats. That brings me to the end, Chairperson. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, General, for the presentation. Before we continue into the discussion, I think just some brief remarks. I was just making a few notes, and then I'm going to move over to the honourable members for us to discuss. Just a few short comments. I think it's important that we just acknowledge we have seen quite a few. Good morning, DM. Sorry. It's important to acknowledge the arrests that we've seen in the last 2 weeks. There certainly were an increase in certain parts of the country, and it was very visible and well communicated by SAPS. And I really hope and trust that the investigation process will be impeccable to ensure that once it gets to prosecution, it really is of an extremely high standard. So I think that's the first part. I think also something that stands out in the presentation was the fact that we are now openly seeing that level 3 to 5 targets, are becoming a priority. So I think that's something good to hear, because very often the question that is asked, especially by the public, is that, we're making a whole lot of low-level arrests, a high number of low-level arrests. It's not really addressing, who the bosses are that run these rackets. A few concerns with regards to the presentation. I think firstly, I must just say that we were expecting the presentation for last week, Friday. So it made it very difficult for us to prepare properly. We only received it yesterday, which gave us 24 hours to prepare for this. Now, colleagues, if this is going to be a priority for the country, we need to handle it as such. I could hear in the presentation that it is seriously being considered, but goodness, we can't expect to prepare properly in 24 hours for something in such depth. I think we should at least, as an unwritten rule, give each other 5 to 7 days before to prepare properly with such a presentation. In terms of the complexities of extortion, I think it is crucial again, and I'm not going to labor the point too much, but the delay with a presentation like this makes it difficult for us to do our oversight work, because we need to hold the executive accountable. We can't do that if we can't prepare properly. So please assist us in making sure that it doesn't happen again in the future. I want to firstly then acknowledge the Minister and the Deputy Ministers with respect to the attendance and the support and responses to the committee. General, I must just say that your timing on the presentation was literally perfect. It was on the dot 40 minutes, so the timer just went off. So thank you for also considering that. I then must question the lack of detail in the presentation and not so much operational detail. Don't get me wrong. We understand we can't give away the competitive initiative that the law enforcement authorities need. But as a committee, we need to understand what the measurable outcomes are. What are we aiming to? What are we working towards? What are we measuring to ensure or to be able to confirm whether we are achieving any kind of success? In terms of measurable outcomes, we need to be able to track progress, because otherwise, how do we know we are progressing, we are moving forward? So we need to be able to tell ourselves what the benchmark is. How can we hold anyone accountable to a specific success if we don't know what to or how to measure that specific success? And in terms of the budget, obviously we want to help with regards to budget from the committee side, but we can't do that because we don't know what the budget would entail. If we don't have details for the committee to consider, there's no way of us assisting in understanding what those budget shortcomings are. I think it's crucial that we acknowledge, and it has been said in Parliament as well, that extortion must receive urgent and focused resources. And I think everyone acknowledges that, but we need the flesh on the bone to understand exactly what that would entail. I think I'm not going to labor all the challenges with regards to, detailed cases on extortion. I think it would be preaching to the choir. We know what it entails, and it's basically in some cases become an additional kind of tax service. It's an additional tax that some communities pay. I actually want to go as far as calling them tax pirates, because that's exactly what they are. They hold communities hostage with something that they so significantly had to work hard for. I can't help but stress the Intercape issue again. I want to firstly thank the Minister of Police in his absence for the response that we received yesterday. It was the first quarterly report that was awaited for over a year regarding the Intercape matter. And there are some things that we will respond on to just get some clarity on, but it's good to see that there is a response. And I know we are still going to have a session to discuss that in detail. We also need to discuss the additional funding from Treasury in terms of targeted interventions from specialized task teams like the Economic Infrastructure Task Team. We need to talk about proactive prevention strategies, and also then particularly in some of the provinces like the Western Cape, where extortion has become such a critical issue, including KZN and the Eastern Cape too, where we know what the challenges are. I think it's very important that we zoom in on what the other approaches are apart from just policing. So there will be a time when we will hopefully, and I have spoken with the chairperson of the Justice Committee too, to see how we can take hands to assist from both ends. We must have, and we've stressed this every single week, we must have an integrated approach. It's good to see that legislation from all angles is being considered, because I don't think we can purely say that this is just a policing issue. With that, colleagues, I'm going to start with the extortion discussion. Let me just get a show of hands. Would you like to take a 10-minute break, or can we continue? Comfortable? Okay. Let's go. So I'm going to then straight up go to the discussion. I think I'm going to start, if